Even the Wall Street Journal, and I say even because aside from the editorial page, the Wall Street Journal, it also bends a little leftward out there. And they have a piece today entitled Hillary's Racial Politics. And I'm going to bore you with the whole piece, but what it focuses on is why Hillary is making such a big deal about voting rights acts and voting laws, and why she's out there speaking to the American Bar Association and the NAACP about the right to vote and black people and how it's being taken away from them, and all of this gobbledygook that isn't true. And here's a pull quote: "The disconnect between these facts and Mrs. Clinton's assertions suggests that Mrs. Clinton is the one playing racial politics. The current narrow Democrat majority is largely a coalition based on gender and racial identity. It requires big turnout among single women and non-whites. And as the Obama era winds down, the fear among Democrats is that these voters won't have the same enthusiasm. Take the first African-American president off the ballot, not as much enthusiasm. Get rid of the front-running feminazi female, not as much enthusiasm. In other words, they need to cheat. They need avenues to vote for. This is why they're so opposed to photo ID. What this story in the Wall Street Journal is pointing out is essentially Hillary knows she doesn't have a prayer without voting laws stacked in her favor. That is, maintaining the standard that there will be no photo ID required. And there's only one reason for that, and that's that you can have voter fraud. It's pure and simple. And everybody knows. I actually think given the Democrats' incessant focus on voting rights, and the idea here that there's still some effort out there to deny minorities the right to vote. If anything, there is an effort to count their votes more than once. If anything, there is an effort to get people not even qualified to vote. The idea that there's an effort to squash minority voting is absurd. It's just the exact opposite. Everybody's pandering to them. And the way the Democrats operate, they're trying to see to it that minorities can vote multiple times. Early voting, absentee voting, same-day voter registration as voting, all of this is aimed at overwhelming an electoral system that can't keep up with the fraud. In one sense, you could probably say that it is a wonder Republicans win anything. And then you would say it's got to be a testament to the power of Republican or conservative ideas. But every time I see a Democrat on television wailing and moaning and complaining and crying about Voting Rights Act here and voting rights laws, as though there's still this effort from the 1800s to deny the right to vote to minorities. What an insult to intelligence that is. As I said, the effort is to get those people voting multiple times. And the whole idea that a photo ID is the equivalent of a poll tax or some such, all this age-old language that incites old ideas of racism and Jim Crow slavery and this kind. It's absurd. Well, anyway, the Wall Street Journal is calling her on it in this piece. And anyway, it's all happened before she's even announced, which we also must point out.